America needs a comeback. I beat a chronic drug addiction and dedicated the last 20 years of my life building the kingdom of God as a pastor and a popular conference speaker. But I watched as our nation slipped further and further away from its destiny. So I came from behind the pulpit to help reunite our country and inspire the church to get out of the four walls and get into the fight for our nation. Now, we talk to people that I've met along the way that are fighting for faith, family, and freedom. I've been fighting my whole life. Now, I'm fighting for you, and these people are fighting by my side. We need a comeback, and I'm an American comeback story. I'm Derrick Gates, and this is The Current.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of The Current. I got my buddy here today with me, Grover. His name's Mike, and we're going to get into a conversation about what's happening in California and the United States. Listen, I thank you so much. This is the fourth episode, I believe, and it's getting incredible play. I can't believe already so many thousands of people have watched this show right here on the Cross Network. I appreciate you so much. Make sure you visit officialderrickgates.com or derrickgates.com for the ministry site, where you can see all the other podcasts and different episodes that we do across all the media platforms. So I'm going to get right into it today. Grover is a good friend of mine. We actually met at the very first Republican meeting that I went to, and he was there, and he was a candidate for the governor of California. And since then, we became friends, and we've done a lot of things together. And I've had him as a guest on my podcast before. And Grover, tell us a little bit about you. Yeah, your name's Mike.
Yes.
I don't know why. Was Grover just easier to remember for everybody?
Yeah, Grover was easier to remember because, also because I was named after Grover Cleveland.
Yeah.
One of the best presidents that we've had.
Are you saying that just because of the name?
Of course. Of course. So I used Grover because it just seemed easier for people to remember.
Right.
But my name is Mike Grover Coltharp. I decided to run for governor because, someone had to bring the Constitution back to California.
Right.
But I'm just a little guy.
Yeah, you know what I liked about you in the beginning? I mean, you're a nice guy, but nice guys aren't necessarily great candidates or the right leader for a position. I stood by it, and I still stand by it, and I've said it to everybody that I know, that I thought you were the best candidate and the best person for the job.
Thanks.
And I was a little let down, actually, when you said, hey, I'm stepping out, But, what I didn't like, you put so much work into the recall.
Yeah.
I don't think people know. You literally got an RV and traveled with your wife up and down the coast of California, which is a big state, getting recall signatures and really putting in the time. But there was so much more than that, because just getting a signature wasn't it. It was actually getting people to understand why we need to get the signatures for that recall. And so you were the guy. I mean, and the fact that you were a constitutionalist, that's what I really liked. So you were how many years police officer?
19.
19 years.
Yeah.
In the Sacramento area, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Tell us about that. What do you think about where we are as a nation with the police force right now?
Well, in law enforcement nowadays, they've really got a tough job, and we've had a tough job before, right? But the officers now have a different world they have to live, because we have a administration on the side of the president.
Right.
We also have a governor in California who both clearly not only don't respect law enforcement, but don't want to enforce any laws.
Right.
And so the police are required by some laws to enforce certain laws, and then once they enforce them, then the DAs are letting everyone out. And then the governor...
Like here in L.A.
Like here in LA, exactly. Perfect example of LA.
Right.
You don't want to step foot in LA right now without your own
It's
gun.
bad.
No.
And then you get in trouble if you carry a gun. But the criminals can
Yeah,
carry
you
a
can't
gun.
bring a gun into, even if you have a CCW, you can't
Yep.
bring a gun to LA, which is perfect because that's why there's so much crime. Because all the good guys aren't allowed to bring one.
Right.
But yet the police, their hands are tied.
Right.
So it's a tough situation. Very tough.
Yeah, I agree. It's everybody gives the police a hard time, but the reality is they're handcuffed.
They are.
It's a danged if you do, danged if you don't situation, especially in California. You got one group that says this and one group that says that. Why aren't you enforcing the laws? Well, they're handcuffed not to be able to enforce the laws. I truly believe the homeless problem here in California is just absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
But the law enforcement can't enforce the laws that are put in place to keep it in control. You got people camping out on the front of businesses in the front. We had a guy camping out in front of our house the other day.
Wow.
And the cops can't do anything. They're out there drunk or drug needles or whatever it is. And we've known a lot of businesses that have shut down through like Venice Beach, Santa Monica, because the homeless population has taken over their neighborhoods, and who wants to shop there?
Right.
But you worked the homeless.
Yeah,
right?
so I did, and I'll tell you a story. Back in the day, this is 20 years ago, probably 15 years ago, but anyway, it was a long time ago. In Sacramento, for instance, what the police were trying to do is get all the transients, because what they were doing, the homeless, they were stealing shopping carts.
Right.
And so what the police were doing is they were actually giving them citations or taking them to jail in some cases for shopping cart theft. There's a specific code in California law that allows you to do that.
Right.
Well, the California Supreme Court decided that, you can't enforce that law. And so every time the police try and use a law to clean up their neighborhoods or their community because they want to take care of their communities, the courts, the judges who probably live inside gated communities and don't let
Right.
transients live in their
That's
backyard,
a
allow the transients to just live anywhere they want and do whatever they want. And they don't spend any money on mental illness, which is really the problem.
Yeah, I agree. They said, I saw a study maybe a year and a half ago now. I think you and I have talked about this before, where they said that homelessness was 80%, basically 80% situational, 20% mental illness. And I'm telling you right now, I think it might be 90% mental illness and addiction, and the other 20% might be situational. But even if it's situational, it's not long before mental illness is an issue, because homelessness will lead to addiction usually, and mental illness I think is the culprit of a majority of the problems here.
It is. I mean, I can tell you for a fact that most of it, I'd say 90% of homelessness is a result of mental illness. See,
Yeah.
Mental illness you can't see.
Yeah.
And as a law enforcement officer, there's actually training that we go to learn about mental illness and how it affects the communities and people and how to
Right.
deal with them, right? But that is a very huge deal, and the government does not want to pay attention to that.
Right. Yeah.
They ignore the laws that are already in place that are supposed to allow the mental health to be addressed.
Now, my personal opinion on this is that, blue states, blue cities, they keep it that way because they get funding, they get programs, and all these different things. I think that's how they continue to keep a population under blue control, is to keep the chaos moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without chaos, they don't have control.
Right. Now, I think it's LA County. I know it's LA County, but I think the number is $780 million is what they pay for salaries to deal with the homeless population of LA, and they don't do anything. That's just the salaries. That doesn't count any money they use, because
pensions,
they don't.
Double that.
Right? Yeah, double that, because you got pensions.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So I was in D.C. last week. Shift gears a little bit, and I'm looking at the hypocrisy I'm in front of the White House. There's 2 fences and a wall and a bunch of do not enter signs.
Really?
And Marines and Secret Service and police and barricades and all these different things out there. And I'm just thinking, from a country that the government says we don't believe in walls and borders, I can't walk up to the White House. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I know I can't walk up to the White House. But how, and you just said it, like judges live behind these fences, these gated communities. You can't walk up to Nancy Pelosi's house. You can't walk up to these different, they have security. They have these different things. It's kind of like, I can't remember who it was today on the news that said something about, it was one of the guys from Star Trek, has been, the Asian guy, I can't think of his name, Lou, whatever his name was. But
yeah, I don't know.
But he's like, well, we should just go ahead and suck it up and pay a couple extra bucks for fuel to support freedom in Ukraine. Well, that's great for you.
Aren't we already doing that? Aren't we buying our oil from them?
Are we already buying the oil from them?
We're buying our oil from the Russians right now.
Yeah, absolutely. you got these places that are pouring out Russia vodka, but tanking up with Russian fuel.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. But it's so hypocritical for these people to talk like this when they have security, when they have Cori Bush, Congressman Cori Bush. She had, I think it was, and I can't remember exactly the number, but just a crazy number that she spends on security every month. But she talks about how we need to defund the police. Well, you defund the police, but you're the one that can afford private security.
That's why she has it.
That's why she has it.
Because there's no police that want to protect her,
So,
even though they would if they had to.
Where did the wheels fall off this thing in the country? We're out of control. I mean, this thing has spun out of control, and I have doubts on whether or not we can ever get it back. But where do you think the wheels spun off?
That's really tough because, we can go all the way back to Obama.
Right.
And I remember, because I was still in law enforcement at the time, I remember a specific case up in the in New England side, New Hampshire, something like that, on the East Coast, where a black mayor was driving drunk. He fled from the police. They pursued him. He tried to run into his house. They tackled him, got in a fight with him, trying to arrest a criminal. But because he was a mayor, Obama came out and railed the police officers.
Wow.
Right? And so that's where it started. And that was, 10 years ago?
At least.
Right? And so I think that's where it started. Because when you have the President of the United States, or a man who's in that office, talking like that about law enforcement, who he's surrounded by,
right,
that's where it started, in my opinion. And from then on, it just went worse. And now here we have California, what is the 6th largest economy in the world, who don't even like police, but yet our governor is surrounded by them.
Every minute of the day.
Every minute of the day.
I had his head of security call me one time.
Is that right?
Yeah, when we were doing a protest at the Capitol, he called and said, hey, we'd really appreciate it if you didn't come.
Wow.
I said, well, we're coming. He goes, well, you don't have a permit. I was like, well, the Constitution's my permit.
That's right.
And we went anyway. They ended up giving us a permit, but
to
that's
push.
where we're at.
They like to push until they know that we know what our rights are.
Yeah, I just got done saying that. So I was in D.C. last week, and like I said, and I went there for the truckers are there right now. And they're in these conversations with, Ted Cruz and all these things. And they were supposed to do a big event in D.C. on the 1st. During the State of the Union, there was supposed to be this big event, and all these different speakers were supposed to be there. And I got asked to come out. And about a week before, people started talking about, this is going to be a false flag. This is going to be a bad deal. And people started talking about this. And I said, look, they're going to label everything that. They're going to try, everybody's going to try to get you to stop protesting and expressing your rights as an American. until people are too afraid to do anything.
Yeah.
And then they don't even know that they have that right anymore, you know? So, and it's exactly what happened. So we show up, and what was supposed to be this huge, I mean, it went viral. The guy that put it on was on Fox and on Newsmax and on OAN and all these different things. There was 30 different news channels there.
Wow.
But only about 30 people showed up, patriots showed up.
Interesting.
And it was at the mall, Washington Mall. I'm speaking off the stage, and I'm speaking right in front of the Washington Memorial. 20, 30 people. That's it.
Wow.
Because everybody was too afraid to go. And that's where we're at. They have put us in a state of fear. Mm-hmm. I think January 6th scared a lot of people.
Yeah.
They think if they show up to a protest, they're going to get put in jail, indefinitely.
Well, that was the plan.
That was the plan.
Right? If you have a guy from the FBI, the most corrupt law enforcement agency in the world, by the way,
Yep.
Knocking on your door saying, "Hey, I want to talk to you," they don't know that they can just shut the door on them.
Yep, that's right.
Because, see, the FBI has to have a warrant.
Yep.
Now, not that a warrant means anything to the FBI, because they just make crap up and get warrants.
Right.
But the law says they're supposed to have a warrant to go, right? But a lot of people don't know that the Fourth Amendment protects them when it comes to that. It doesn't matter if it's the FBI, the police department, whatever. But the FBI loves to intimidate people like that. And that's what's happening, is that they don't want that phone call. They don't want that door knock.
Right. Yeah, so they just avoid it altogether.
And so I don't want to do it.
And then our rights are just gone because we've given them away.
Voluntarily.
And it's been, so since 2020 when we started doing the protests, the Reopen California protests, which is what really launched me into where I'm at now, I've been saying that it's really difficult to get back what you give away willingly. And we have given away. So these mandates and all these different things, these vaccines and the mask and all this different stuff, it's not about whether or not you want to get a vaccine or whether you want to wear a mask. If you want to get a vaccine, get it. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. But just giving away your right to choose to get a vaccine or to wear a mask or to shut your business down or shut your church down, that's a right. When you give it away, now they know that they can always get you to, not even to give it, they'll just come in and take it now because they know that you're gonna just surrender it. That's been my problem the entire time.
Yeah.
So
this was a test.
Yeah.
It was a test, and the government saw that, oh my goodness, that was easier than I thought.
Yeah. Oh yeah. From a faith point of view, this is a Christian station, and as a pastor, and I was on all these conference stages for years, and even many people watching this have seen me in churches over the years, big churches, and people would say over the years, "I'll never shut down. You'll have to drag me in the streets before I ever shut the doors to my church." And I was embarrassed of how many churches, and I'm talking fast.
Yeah.
Now I understand the initial fear that came over people, like, oh my God. I remember the videos that were circulating about China. You'd see the videos of people like shaking and dying in the streets, and it was all propaganda. Yeah. None of that stuff was even real. Yeah. My biggest problem was people that as soon as we figured out that this was propaganda, they still refused. There's people right now taking temperatures to get in the door of the church.
Is that right?
There's people now there. I know churches that completely have said, you know what, we like the live stream better than person to person, and they're not going to open their churches back up.
Wow.
And I think that was a tactic of the enemy in many different ways. Physically, our government; spiritually, the devil, to keep our faith shut down. So, one of the things that we had in common that I really liked, because I thought people would think I was crazy, was when we talked about the position of the sheriff. Mm-hmm. So for those that are overseas, you don't know this, and probably for most people in the United States don't know this either. Yeah. But the sheriff is the highest constitutional authority in the county, in the United States. And that's every state, right? That's
in the United States.
So, period.
Yep. That's my understanding, is the United States.
Yeah,
that's
me too.
Although there are some states that have changed that. or have tried to change that.
California's trying to change
California, it. California, because if California does it, everyone else can do it easy.
Everything that California does, the whole United States does.
Yeah.
And that's why California is such a battleground. What goes California goes the nation, and typically goes the world.
That's right.
Because everybody looks at the United States as an example.
That's right.
That's why it's such a battle. People don't understand why we're fighting so hard. That's why we're fighting so hard. We're not just trying to save a county or a state or a nation. We're trying to save the world from this. But so my idea was, you know what? They want to defund the police, reroute the funding to the sheriff's department, and let the sheriff's department manage and do what they are constitutionally allowed to do. And that takes away, because I think a lot of the police departments have become private militaries for the board of, the city board. And,
they are.
You know,
they have to be.
Yeah, because it's their job. It's their job.
Yeah, because the chief in most cities, there's one city in California in the San Francisco Bay Area that has an elected chief. Okay, but based on talking to one of the officers there, it's not really a legitimate election. But anyway, he's elected. Okay, so but the chief of police is hired by the city council. The city council is elected.
Right.
But if the chief of police does not do what the city council tells him to do, then he's fired.
Right.
So they are subject to the city council, not the people.
Yep. And that's how you get all these, I'm just doing my job.
That's right.
Well, I remember in history a lot of people that went, on trial after World War II, their answer was, I was just doing my job. I said in 2020, I said to some police, I said, you have to decide who you took your oath to protect. Did you take your oath to protect us as citizens, or did you take your oath to protect the board, the city, the mayor? Is that what you took your oath to protect? And there's been a lot of people that have quit over that. My friend Michael McMahon, who started Roll Call for Freedom here in LA, he got fired from the police department because he refused to back down. Wow. And there are people standing up. So what do you think's next? Give me your 60-second version of what's next for our nation.
Oh, man. Our nation right now, we've got some serious problems. We have to keep standing up. People are standing up to school boards. They're standing up to City Hall.
Yeah, the whole school board in San Francisco, right? That got recalled, right?
Yes, a couple key people got recalled in San Francisco.
That's a major victory.
They're going after the DA now, I understand.
Good.
And so this recall is working, and the people are speaking, and it's happening. It's working.
Yeah, and I believe they're trying to. One of the things the state is trying to do is take away our ability to recall.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I haven't read that. I believe
they
that.
have to because conservatives are recall happy.
Yeah.
That's literally
that's
the only
our power.
weapon. That's the weapon we have.
That's all we have left.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
What do you see coming up in the upcoming election for governor of California? Is there anybody you're looking at? Do you like anybody that's in the election?
I have to tell you honestly, I fear that Gavin Newsom is going to get reelected.
Yeah.
I really fear that, not only because Californians typically have a short memory, because he's starting to release some of these restrictions that he had, right?
Yeah,
so
that's
now
political.
He's looking like the good guy.
Yep.
Look at it. I'm giving my children freedom.
Our methods worked.
They did.
Yeah, our methods worked. The numbers are down. Now we're releasing everything. He looks like the good guy.
Now you're all safer.
Yeah.
Because of me.
Yep.
And that's my fear. The other fear is the election system is very questionable.
Very.
And
at minimum,
between the two, I'm really worried.
Yeah, me too.
I'm really worried.
Did you know one of the things I felt about the recall was I was a little bummed out that only 3 million conservatives came out to vote in the recall, whereas 6 million were registered to vote in California, allegedly.
Yeah.
We got to get out and vote. I say vote in person. I say surrender your ballot,
Agreed.
Vote in person.
Agreed.
We got to do everything we can to make that happen. One of the things I encourage people to do is to look at the bills that are in play. And one of the things that some people don't think it works, I think it at least is an effort, is to call your assembly person, call your state senator, say, look, I'm not happy about this. I got a couple of them down here. Look them up. AB 1993, which will require every Californian to have a vaccination if you're going to be employed in California. I don't think some of these things will float. I think there's too much on the line for them. SB 1464 will require all law enforcement to enforce public orders. I mean, even if it's unconstitutional, they won't have a choice because it becomes state law. SB 1479, which requires schools to continue to track people and quarantine people. It's absolutely ridiculous, the things that are on the books. But you can't change things if you're not involved. You got to be informed. You got to know. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Being a guest. I'm sure we'll have you back many times.
Very honored. Thank you.
And we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of The Current. Remember, guys, it takes a lot of money to do these things. The Cross TV here in Duarte, they need your support. We need your support to continue to do what we're doing. Visit the website. Look at all the stuff we got. And remember, we're on a crusade to get Christians out to vote. So if you want me to come to your ministry or your church, no matter where it is in the United States, we'll come in, we'll educate people on why you got to vote. Remember, only 23% of Christians actually go out and vote, and 100% of Christians should be involved. And I can show you, your ministry, your church, why it is that we should be involved in the governmental mountain and why it's our responsibility to make sure that people of faith are serving in our government. We are supposed to influence government, not the other way around. We love you so much. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks.